I will be very, very eager for you to meet Maris. You definitely want to take in her testimonials and her on all of her websites and so forth. You can read great things about her and her partner, Ken. And here is Maris. Maris, welcome to the fourth Women Bustin' Barrier Summit.
I love that. Busting barriers. I love that. It's so about the breakthrough. And oh my gosh, I've been on all morning, which has been so much fun, or all afternoon. And nuggets, 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 just so much goodness, juicy goodness in here. So I can't imagine not getting the VIP package because I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely a multitasker, but you can't get all the nuggets by just kind of being in and out and listening. You really get to go back. That's kind of one of the greatest values of doing really the VIP package is because then you can go back and really take notes on those nuggets. And what I love about what you've done structurally is look, we all speak all the time and it's such a gift, but you've done this in short segments that are really bite-sized that I think are tremendously impactful. So one, what could be bad, right? You buy the VIP package, it serves a great cause with all of Camille's incredible work. And then you get all this amazing juicy goodness and value ongoing. So definitely get the VIP package. And I actually can add something to the VIP package, which I had not done. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so if you guys actually, if you buy the VIP package today, we had already offered our gratitude practice guide, but for anyone who buys the VIP package, we will also send you a signed book, our R Factor signed book, which I'd love to be able to share with you directly, but that means you get to make that commitment to the VIP package. So in that, then Deborah will just let us know who those folks are. So yes, bonus, anything to incentivize.
Oh, thank you so much, Maris. That really warms my heart. And I have my cell phone here set on a timer, but I have the R Factor down on my Kindle and been reading it and been very, very impacted by it positively. You are, and your partner Ken of 30 years. You can been together 30 years.
22 years. Yeah, 18 married, 22 years together in business and in life. So it's been remarkable. Really
Yeah.
been remarkable.
And everybody that doesn't happen to know Maris, if that's even a possibility, she's a veteran relationship marketer, yes, and a pretty impressive event producer, right? She coaches and consults with executives, entrepreneurs, the Pope, celebrities, presidents. I mean, and her and Ken's mission, bring philanthropic visions to life, right? A lot of impact work that they do. She focuses on mindset, evolving human relation skills, in both sectors of the private and public to build peak performing cultures of connected, confident individuals. This is so valuable. And so, as she's mentioned, they've written their latest book, The R Factor, Universal Rhythms for Leading Prosperous Relationships. And this is at the core of their very, very impactful business. She and her partner have produced events in 40 countries. That's 40. Over 4 decades, it was child labor. And so she's really has quite the past. And I think I've already mentioned she's been involved with producing the halftime shows of 2 Super Bowls and the 400th anniversary of America. And I'm going from memory. I just read a lot about her because there's a lot to read about her, and I invite you to do just that. And so, Maris, to your own admission, because it's women busting barriers, you shared about wrestling with busting through a 4-letter word, fear.
FEAR. Can anyone relate? Who's busted through fear on a regular basis? Right. Oh, Deborah, you're frozen. Can you guys hear me though?
Oh, I can hear you.
And okay, good. Okay, you were frozen for a minute. Yeah. So fear is interesting. One of the things that I think is most important when we look at through busting through barriers is it's an inside out job, right? Guess what? When we talk about busting through barriers, it's the barriers we are creating first. It's the barriers we're creating first, right? So often the barriers that we're breaking through outside, I'm the only woman in the room, which by the way, I was from the time I was 21 years old, the only female in the room with executives and firefighters and all kinds of people when I was working on the Olympic torch relay. And that notion of, oh my gosh, they're going to find out I don't know what I think I'm supposed to know. Yeah. Yikes. Yes, Wendy, false evidence appearing real. So here's the thing with fear. When we wake up in the morning, as women, when we wake up in the morning, what we get to say first is, I choose today from the inside out because I'm choosing me first from the inside out. And when we do that and we look at something like fear, I'm going to teach you an acronym. Okay, you guys, I want you to write this down. When we are in that space of fear and we wake up in the morning and we're doing our gratitude practice in the morning, which I really invite you to do. We have teams doing this across the country, across the globe. We have families doing this gratitude practice. In business and at home, we have one life to live and all of these relationships. When we start with gratitude, even when you look at your day and think, oh my gosh, I have a very big meeting coming up, I'm afraid. I'm going to the car dealership to buy a car. Yikes, I'm afraid. I have an interview. I have a presentation. My kids are going off to camp. I can't get everything planned. All of these things can drive a little bit or a lot of fear or no fear. So when we start from the inside out to acknowledge what we're feeling first, which was my biggest lesson as a kid,
Yeah.
was to be okay that I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Right now.
So often women are in that space of, oh, just suck it up. You know,
Yes, exactly.
put on your big girl pants.
Right. Yeah.
Which I did. I lived into. It's part of what Jill said earlier. We've done some work together. Is that look, when we show up in that way, and we're just being and being and being for everybody else, and we're not starting inside first, then we can't be for other people. So come from that space of knowing that we get to really look at how are we respecting ourselves first and saying, okay, I respect myself. I'm feeling fear, and here's my acronym. Face it. FACE.
Yeah.
You guys, we have stuff coming up all day long, I guarantee you. And
Right.
here's what we get to do with that. That's why this fear thing has been a big buster for me. Face it is freely acknowledge current emotion. Okay.
Oh,
So
that's
whether or not this
brilliant.
is your
Yes. Say it one more time.
freely acknowledge current emotion. Face it. It doesn't matter what's coming up. And I will tell you guys that at 21, when I stood in front of the California Highway Patrol, Peter Ubroth, when I was doing the Olympics, because Deborah asked me when was one of the first times this came up. And I'm standing in front of Peter Ubroth, the California Highway Patrol, my mentor, who was my very first mentor, Wally McGuire. And I stood in front of this group and I thought, I have no idea what I'm doing in this room. I really couldn't even imagine. And what I immediately acknowledged was, what am I afraid of? And what I was afraid of at that point was I'd screw it up. But most importantly, that I would disappoint someone who would put faith in my skills, which I didn't even know I had. So they saw something that I was not clear about, but I sure as heck knew I didn't want to disappoint them. So my acknowledgement of the fear was really important. And it's only been now later in our relational leadership coaching that we're doing to create culture with teams of connection and families. Are we really bringing that forward? And we get to acknowledge how we're feeling. Your teams get to acknowledge how they're feeling. And when it comes to the money side of it, this is a big one. When you're working on a team or in a family, we all come to our financial relationship from long legacies from our past. Long legacies. My parents passed, their parents before them, their parents before them. And we bring that into our current environment. So the habits, because it shapes how we operate in that space. When you know you have fears even around money, and I had big ones because my parents yelled at each other at the top of their lungs about not having enough. And then God bless my parents who were amazing working humans. My mom would still go out and be sure that we were all dressed beautifully and we still had everything. So it was this conflict of, okay, wait, I'm a little confused. I don't have it. And yet I still, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So that was a big conflict for me. Learning how to really navigate the responsibility of money, the fear of money, and how when we step into the space of respecting money and what we deserve around it, then all of these other opportunities that Deborah's talking about, that we've all been talking about today, are easy open doors.
Yeah.
Because we recognize that being in relationship with the fear, whatever it is, when we can acknowledge it and face it, then all of a sudden it doesn't have to block us. because we can then say, I got it, I see you, and that's not helping me right now, but here are tools that are. And then it opens the door for us to say yes to these other opportunities. Really powerful. And that's self-empowerment. No one has to give you permission for any of that. And I'm a little passionate about it because I've I've navigated my own pain around this, and I do not want you guys to keep
Yes.
feeling this
Yes.
without being in that acknowledgement space, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
That's a big one.
the mic drop. I mean, boom. Big one for sure. Yeah. I mean, all right. Who of us at age 21, 22 is invited to be a part of the Olympic torch committee and so forth and so on? Like her friend was carrying her friend was Jesse Owens' granddaughter carrying the torch, right? And who's invited and hesitates, right? Now, I'm not saying Maris doesn't have guts. She has a lot of guts. Yet, why did you hesitate, Maris? Because there's a lot of value in this.
Yeah, so two things came up here. I had made a commitment. I had been traveling globally, working in the U.S., Europe, and across Mexico. And I'd said to my parents with a global youth leadership organization that I was on their staff for. It's called Up with People. And I had made a commitment to my parents that I would come off the road at 21 because I'd been on the road for 2.5 years, and that I would come off the road and I would go back to school and finish college. And so when I got the phone call from Gina, who had been a longtime friend, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I've just been, asked to run the first kilometer in this Olympic torch relay." And of course, I was tracking it because it's the Olympics. And she said, "Oh, I wonder if there's a way for you to get involved." And I said, "Gina, it's so amazing. Oh my gosh, incredible." But I made a commitment to my parents. A week later, another friend called who was actually interviewing for a job with the Olympic torch. And I kind of went, okay, that's twice in a week. And they hadn't connected. What? So I literally just sat back and said, okay. And I said to him the same thing. I made a commitment to my parents. A week after that, he called my house and said to my mom, "Hey, I was hoping that Maris was going to send her resume in." I wasn't there because I was doing a summer job elsewhere. And 2 days later, my parents call me in this where I am. And my mother said, "Your father and I have discussed this. Evidently, you have an opportunity to apply for the Olympic torch relay job. And we think you should do this."
I hadn't told them, right?
I hadn't told them a thing because I was standing in my commitment to them. And I thought, you know what? In 4 years, I'll be 25. I'll be able to do the Olympics at 25. I'm young enough. Let me go back and finish school. And so it was really my parents who said, "We really respect that you're holding to your commitment, and we think that this is where you get to be next." And my parents were amazing in that. It was really interesting because my instinct said to me, go for it and ask your parents. And I didn't because I really wanted to be true to my commitment. So I was really grateful for my parents. And my dad was tougher, military guy. My dad was definitely tougher. But he too said, yeah, this is where you get to go. And that experience changed my life. That experience changed the trajectory of my life. And because what I really learned in all of that and all the work I've done over the years is that relationships are where everything begins. Think of the 2 phone calls that I got from 2 different people about that opportunity. Relationships are where it all begins. And when we can master our relationships in our business life, in our personal lives, from a place of openness and respect and trust, and from the inside out first, then we can be for everybody else. And it's pretty simple. So that was a life altering breakthrough for me, trusting it. And then also, frankly, for the next year, really rising to what other people saw in me as potential, which scared the living hell out of me.
Of course it did, because you rose pretty fast and pretty big.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah, this is so impactful. Realigning. See, I so honor your honoring your word to your parents. I honor that so much. And of course they did. And then there's some times in life where we have to assess, how is this the time I should realign my commitment to match the value and the opportunity. And so this is all discernment. I talk about EI, emotional intelligence. I mean, we need to be, we want to be and need to be plugged into our own fabric, our values. We need to know what we've taken a stand for. And you're a young girl, you probably hadn't taken so many stands yet, although you were up with people around the world. It wasn't nothing. However, you took a stand for your relationship with your parents. They received that information, then came and took a stand with you and said, here's our permission, here's our blessing, here's our urging, you go for it. And I'm so proud of all of you. It's a wonderful story. Now I need to go back.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say that one of the things that also really works into is the work we do now in emotional intelligence, relational leadership, which is respect, responsibility, reframing, and resilience.
I love
Because
this.
we have now, these are literally the 4 rhythms. We set the rhythms of our day. And these are the rhythms that work in the relationship that Ken and I have together because we're choosing every day. But also, we've now been navigating this and creating culture within businesses and families because when all of these 4 are working together, business deals are booming, personal lives are thriving. It's all one life. And so when I look back at that situation with my parents too, it was, where did respect show up for each other, for myself, right? Where did responsibility show up? I was being accountable, right? Where did the reframing, the other opportunity and what else was possible? Had we not reframed what was possible? And then the resilience piece, the rising through of, yes, here's what it takes, asking for support and moving it forward because I had a lot of things to shift. And that's really been the guide. And it's really, it is what we coach on, people talk about soft skills, which to me, soft skills don't exist. To me, it's human skills. And
Right.
that's the bottom line. And for us, the focus now on that to build these peak performing teams and families is huge for us because it shapes everything. It impacts everything. And when you can face it, own it, acknowledge it, and move through, you're creating peak performing teams and families. Seems simple. I know it's not, but it seems simple.
What do they say? Seems simple, but it's not easy. So Iris, if you can write these in there: respect, response, reframe, and resilience. Now I want to take you back quickly. We don't have much time. I want to take you back quickly to age 7. And your whole family was very big on competitive water skiing. Tell us about that experience and how you busted through that fear barrier.
It's so funny that you and I were talking about this yesterday, and it was interesting that it came up for me because it's not where I live. But when you asked me about a very early experience, it was one of the first ones that came up for me. And my sisters were amazing competitive water skiers, and and we were also show skiers. So I was the peewee that would climb to the top of the pyramid because they used to call me Peanut and Monkey because I was comfortable climbing. What I wasn't comfortable climbing on were skis and shoulders on water. So it was different on jungle gyms and things like that. So
Yeah.
we were doing all this practice on land, which was remarkable. And when you're practicing on land, obviously you're all climbing. I don't know if you guys have ever seen pyramids, but look up water skiing pyramids.
Oh
And so
yeah,
I
love
would be the person at the 3rd tier. And what that took once we got onto the water was I would be on someone else's skis skiing in front of them, and then they would say climb, and I froze. The notion of actually going from someone's skis in front of them to put my foot on their hip to climb on water that was bumpy in the ocean on July 4th, and the water was like, I don't even know, I think it might have been 55 degrees. I froze in fear. And this amazing, thank you, this amazing instructor, this amazing ski partner said to me, you have done this on harder surfaces on ground. He said, you've got this. All you need to do is fall backwards if you need to fall, and we got you. No big deal. And in that moment, it wasn't what he said. It was my fear of disappointing everybody else. Oh my gosh, people are standing on land watching me. People are sitting in front of the, oh, I better do something. So this is the lesson. Do something. Take that step. Take that step. So what happened? I just took the step and I recognized in that moment it was about other people in that moment. And I could be a team player and I could step out of my fear and just climb. And I did. And it was okay that it was just uncomfortable. And I took the action. And so that lesson for the rest of my life was when we're uncomfortable, do it anyway. Do it anyway. And trust yourself and the people around you.
And they won the competition. Okay, just
We did.
just saying, they won the
We
competition.
did. We
Oh
did.
my goodness. Oh, amazing. Now, who has questions for Maris? Because we got 5 minutes that I want to fill up with all kind of opportunity. Ooh, there's my water falling over. Sorry about that. Who has any questions? That skiing story was just completely amazing. And because I used to water ski, I didn't actually water ski as a young kid, but I began to water ski because a family member actually had a boat, and I so enjoyed it. But I can't even imagine, I mean, I two skis and to go to one, then got out of the water on one. Okay, basics, really, nothing acrobatic, right? But peanut and climber, that I can just see you going right up there. But here's the thing, the guy that on whose skis she was standing, and that's kind of an interesting analogy and picture in our heads. We're always standing on someone else's shoulders, standing on our poor mother's shoulders, right? And so forth. So he said, you can do this. So I want us to take a practice of saying, you can do this. Whether we've done it before, like you had done it on land several times, or we have not perhaps done it step by step, and yet we know we can do this. So critical. And I want us to be purveyors of that kind of hope to all the women around us in particular. You got this.
And here's the thing, if you aren't sure you have it, evidence. There is evidence in every day of your life. The choices that you make all day determine your future. Okay. Absolutely. So when you're not sure about something, take a minute and say, what's my relationship with that situation? Where do I have evidence that I've actually shown up in some place similar that I've navigated through? Because the reality is that even if something is new in that moment of experience, you have likely experienced it in some other way in some other area of your life, especially at this point, right? So when we step into the mindset of, okay, what am I seeing? What am I feeling? Got it. I've been in some place. What does this remind me of? How do I get to navigate that? Because it is inside of you. And whether or not you're a religious person or not, the deity is inside of us. So we come to this earth with this already there. And so when we're building ourselves and building our teams, what does it take? Good communication, acknowledgement, trust, all of these pieces. I do see a question in here.
Yes.
How did you get on the Olympic Torch Committee? What skills did you have that they sought out? Thanks for the question, Wendy. So this was actually the hardest interview experience I've ever had, and it shaped every interview I've now since done for hiring staff, for event producers, whatever it's taken in our world as coaches and doing this work, it really shaped that for me. And, what they were, the opportunity came to me through a couple of mutual friends who said, hey, we're doing this, as I'd said earlier. And then we went through 2.5 days with a couple of hundred people from all over the globe who'd been selected to come in. We had to pay our way to come in. And over the course of 2.5 days, they took us through these intensive experiences and scenarios, and watched us as we worked together, collaborating, as we came up with solutions, as we asked questions. I've never experienced anything like it. And now I actually lead my interviews a lot like that. So at the end of the first day, they eliminated a group. Then at the end of the second day, they were planning to eliminate another group, and it came down to then just a core group of us who developed the route. I don't remember how many numbers there were, but they are really chosen family now. I mean, just the experience of going through that. And part of it is really watching how you process, right? Because the Olympic torch is the first Olympic event. So security is a big issue. Security is a big issue, let alone, the hordes of crowds in the street and the press, and then dealing with Olympians. And our responsibility was all of it. And so I understand why they did that experience. I thought that was so smart. So smart.
Very smart. Kind of put people in the heat of the kitchen first, because all the eyes of the world are on you, right? That's amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we got people loving the respect, response, reframed, and resilience. That's on my notepad. I trust everybody has taken adequate notes. This whole FACE acronym. Give that again, because I'm having trouble reading my writing.
Freely acknowledge current emotion. Face it.
Current emotions. Yeah.
And we've got another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Here, and that is, what was the hardest thing you had to grow through? I love when you say that, Camille. That I had to grow through. There were two big challenges for me in all of that. One was taking myself on, because I was 21. So really, and I was alone a lot because I was developing the route Seattle to Malibu. So as the torch was coming cross country, and there were other folks who stepped in, but I was alone a lot. And so being on the road as a kid, basically, as a 21-year-old,
Yeah.
working into these cities, being okay being alone, being comfortable standing up and going to the mayor's office. And it's funny, I was listening, earlier your conversation with Abigail, that actually AT&T was the sponsor, and it was exactly when when all the bells were breaking up. So we were working with all those individual bell companies, and that was a big challenge. And really, Abigail, she's like, I remember this. Oh yeah, I'm sure you and I get to talk. Because I was laughing. I mean, it was really difficult. So that was one of the greatest challenges, was being sure that we were also honoring the people who had already been involved, which were these retired AT&T and Bell folks, because they had already been doing a part of this. So the relationship piece of this, which is what launched really the work we do now in relational leadership, it's all about the relationships. And that was my biggest challenge, was navigating how to give everybody a voice, how to have everybody be heard, and still come together for this amazing yet apolitical political event. Yeah, so I think that was one of them. The other was also the fear, as I said, at one point Mount St. Helens was potentially going to erupt again, and it did a little bit. And I was literally staring at Mount St. Helens on my big old Motorola cell phone when they said, okay, we're calling you back. You need to get out of there. And I was developing the route through Seattle. And that was kind of this moment of, what am I doing? My parents have no idea physically where I am right now.
Yeah.
That was a moment at 21. And again, I just sort of looked at it and said, you know what? It's not about me. We're bringing the Olympics to people, and I get to do this. And I just kind of broke it through. It was wild.
Maris, this has been a joy and a delight. We could talk with you for hours, as each of our guests. I need to move on to our next guest, who's also esteemed. And I so thank you for being here. Grab her gift, the R Factor Gratitude Practice. And if you upgrade to VIP today or tomorrow, because there are people coming in tomorrow, you will get a signed copy of the R Factor. It's a brilliant book. Do it. All right. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Maris. And
Thank you.